Once again this weekend I am participating in the Victoria Marie Designs YouTube Masterclass Channel Hop. The students in this masterclass are participating in the Channel Hop this weekend to showcase the skills that we've all learned and to jumpstart our creative YouTube channels. Thanks so much for joining me. After this video, please be sure to check out my fellow masterclass students. I've posted the links to their YouTube channels in the description box below. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to our channels. We really appreciate the support. So today I'm creating a layout, and my idea for this layout was sparked by a Cocoa Vanilla Hello Sunshine mini kit that I picked up on sale recently. It had this really gorgeous denim paper in it, which I thought would be fantastic to document a little bit about my love for denim jeans. So I happened to have a photo sitting on my computer that I was yet to use, and it was just me sitting on my kitchen floor wearing my favorite pair of jeans, and I thought that was a really good place to start with my idea for talking about how much I love my jeans. So it's a fairly simple layout, lots of white space. I really do love using plain white cardstock as my background. I've matted my photo first on some white cardstock and then using two of those pattern papers. One is a yellow sunburst pattern and the other is that blue denim. And then I've trimmed off a very narrow strip from both of those same pattern papers, and I'm just running them along the sides of my 12 by 12 white cardstock. I'm only putting a little bit of adhesive down on these because I do plan to do some stitching on them later, and I didn't want to have my sewing machine running through a huge amount of tape or adhesive. So I'm going to mount my photo onto some foam. This is just some inexpensive foam that I've picked up at my local craft store. Using double-sided tape, I've just found that the tape runners don't really run too well when I'm using them on the foam, so double-sided tape seems to work best. The only problem that I have is I have very short nails and quite often have difficulty getting the backing off my tape, which you're seeing a little bit of here. Now I'm going to work out where I'm going to place my photo. I have mentioned in previous video that I get quite finicky about having things aligned properly, having things centered, so I'm using my T-square ruler there to put that into place. And later on you'll see me pick the photo up again and move it because it's still just a little bit too low. So also in the mini kit that I grabbed from Cocoa Vanilla was this matching denim alphabet stickers. So I'm using the denim stickers to spell out blue jean, and then I'm going through my stash. I have a huge amount of alphabet stickers which I really don't use as often as I should. So I'm going to go through my stash and look for something that's going to coordinate with that. And I find these gold scripted thickers. I have no idea how long I've had them for, but they were really, they seem to coordinate really well with that just really simple blue alpha sticker which came from Cocoa Vanilla. So using these thickers, I'm spelling out the word baby. So the title of my layout is Blue Jean Baby. And I'm just going to play around with the placement of that title there and start pulling out some of my embellishments. So I did use some of the embellishments that came from the Cocoa Vanilla kit, and then I also went through and pulled a bunch of stuff from my stash. So it's about here that I'm starting to realize I think that my photo is sitting just a little bit too low for where I want and how I want this layout to come together. And I'm just playing around with a few of those embellishments. That love, it's not very clear in the video, but that is a gold foil text and border on that little die cut. And that's just something that I've had sitting in my stash for a while. So I'm going to go ahead and stick that down there just to the side of the photo. And that's going to be the start of my first embellishment cluster on this layout, just to fill in that white space. And I also think I've covered up my puppy dog's head or part of her head that was just sneaking into the side of that photo. And now you're going to see me placing my title down. I've sped this up quite a bit because, as usual, when I'm placing a title, I do get quite finicky and fussy about my placement and about the alignment. I almost always use my little tweezers just to help me be a little bit more precise in my placement of those letters, particularly when it comes to smaller stickers and smaller embellishments. And I'm grabbing out my ruler here just to help me get those lined up nice and straight. Then I'm going to lay those gold scripted alphas down, and I'm going to play around with the placement of those just a little bit too. I'm going to play around with embellishments for a little while before putting the whole lot away and grabbing out my typewriter to type out my journaling. I love this typewriter. I picked it up at a secondhand store for $50 and it is in such good condition. I love using it for my journaling. And here I'm just typing everything out, and then I'm going to go and cut it down into strips and stick those strips down on my layout. I usually use my tonic guillotine trimmer for my journaling strips. It's just really good when you're cutting small pieces of paper. Makes it really easy to trim. So once I've got those journaling strips down at the bottom of my layout, that's the point where I realize that my photo is sitting a little bit too low and I'm going to be able to fit them all on. So I go about starting moving my photo up first, and then moving up my title, and once again playing around a little bit to make sure that I've got my letters evenly spaced and as straight as I possibly can have them. And when I move the gold baby word up, you'll notice that in the end I decide to overlap the B's, the top of the B's with the bottom of the blue jean words. And the reason I did that was just that it felt like it was floating out in the middle of nowhere, so overlapping them just helps to bring it back together a little bit. And then I've jumped ahead. Once I've stuck those journaling strips down, I tucked it in underneath the baby word. I just felt that was a nice way to fill that space, and it just really helps to everything to feel nicely put together. So now I've grabbed out some of the little bits and pieces of embellishments that I had pulled out with the intention of using these on the layout. I've got a range of things. I've got some old Gossamer Blue embellishments, die cuts that have just been sitting in my collection of die cuts for a long time. I've also got some of the die cuts that came with the Hello Sunshine kit from Cocoa Vanilla. And for this one, I've kept it fairly monochromatic. I'm just using some different blues, some yellows, and then I've grabbed some embellishments, some die cuts that I had, which were either gold foiled or had a gold look to them. And I'm creating one cluster just to the top left of the photo, and then another one down at the bottom right of my page. I've also grabbed out a couple of wood veneers that I had in my stash, and I'm playing around with those, where I want them to go, what I want them to look like. And I've decided that I want to paint them just to have them fit in a little bit better with the color scheme of the layout. And since I've got that yellow sunburst paper on the page, I've decided to try and recreate something similar on my wood veneer pieces. So I've just grabbed out a roll of thin washi tape, and I'm adding that tape across each of the wood veneer pieces to create a couple of stripes. And then I'm going to get my paint, which I've mixed my yellow paint down a little bit, and I'm just going to paint in between the gaps. So you can see there now that each of my little wood veneer pieces has got a nice little yellow stripe on it from that paint once I remove the washi tape. So here I'm going around and playing around with those embellishments just a little bit more, toying with the idea of adding a second cluster to the right hand side of the photo now, rather than having that sitting down the bottom. And I do apologize, You'll see my head pop in quite a bit in this video. This is actually the first process video that I have ever recorded, so it's taken a little bit of getting used to know where the camera is and how far forward I can lean and how far over my layout I can sit. I do usually scrap right over the top of my layout, so that's something I'm having to adjust to just a little bit. I'm using an adhesive roller to stick some paper behind that camera, and the reason I did that is that I just felt that it needed a little bit of backing. And then I've grabbed a little blue enamel heart and stuck that in the middle just for a little bit of extra detail and a little bit more texture. Cutting down one of those die cut flowers. I only needed half of it for that particular little embellishment cluster, so I've just cut it in half, and then I've still got the other half of that flower that I can use elsewhere. Likewise with this little gold foil tag, I've cut that in half and I've got one half of it on the top left of my photo, and then I'm using the other half on the bottom left embellishment of the photo. So these little embellishments are always the hardest part of a layout for me. It's not something that I think comes particularly naturally, so it does usually take me a little while to put things down, pull them back up again, try something different, go back to what I had originally. And yeah, I usually have to play around quite a bit before I find something that I'm happy with. I'm sure that the more often I do it, the better I'll get, but time is not freely available to me at the moment, so I just do the best I can with what I have. And I've just sped this up quite a bit here now while I continue fussing around with those little embellishment clusters, pulling die cuts out, cutting them in half, putting them down, sticking them down, picking them up, just playing around trying to find something that I'm happy with. Grabbed a little gold mini paper clip from Felicity Jane. I love those paper clips. I have quite a few little containers of them, and I love adding them onto my layouts. I've also backed that little heart-shaped geotag with the same pattern paper, just so that that didn't get lost. Grabbing out my date stamp, using some black ink to stamp the date at the bottom of that journaling block there. And then going back to those embellishment clusters to finish sticking everything down. Grabbing out some tiny little stickers from Felicity Jane, and also some that I picked up off an Etsy store. Just putting down a couple of little yellow dots, perfectly coordinated with my layout, and some tiny little blue hearts from that sticker sheet. They are so tiny, I need to use my tweezers to get those down. And I'm going to finish this off by using my sewing machine to add some stitching to those paper strips down either side of my layout. And as always with my stitching, I'm going to turn it over, pull those threads through to the back, and then use a little bit of washi tape to stick them down. So that's it for this layout. I do have some close-up photos, which I will share shortly after this video. Thank you so much for stopping by. Don't forget to check out my fellow masterclass friends. Their channel links are posted in the description box below. You can also find me on Instagram, and I have added the link for that also in the description box. Lastly, be sure to subscribe to my channel, and when you do, click the bell indicator so you'll know every time I post a new video. Have a great day.